Hello, my friends, family, esteemed colleagues. I would finish this small series of videos about natural healing, explaining a little better hypertension. Now, why should we focus on this? Because people are deadly afraid of hypertension. And we are afraid of it because doctors make us afraid. And why are doctors afraid? Because we are being told that elevated blood pressure is bad and we have to keep it down. Well, let's start from scratch. What causes blood pressure? Well, blood pressure is caused by heart's beating or heart's pumping. Some now claim that heart is not a pump. Well, this is nonsensical because if you cut the artery, every time you have a heart in systolic pressure, you have shooting of the blood. So something increased the pressure. If it was not heart, what did? Okay, so a heart is pumping the blood, but that's not the only thing it does. It is also creating electricity by spinning, because heart doesn't pump like this, but twisting motion. Heart is made of one flat muscle that is folded in particular way. And when it contracts, it creates twist, which spins blood particles. Since they are all magnetic, electric. When you spin magnets in close proximity, you get electric current. We use this to generate electricity. But we say that normal blood pressure is supposed to be somewhere in between, let's say, the systolic about 110, 120, and diastolic should be around 60 to 70. Okay, so this is the parameter. Everything higher or lower than this is, we are being told, oh, this is bad, this is terrible, we have to remedy. So how do you remedy it? Well, if it's higher blood pressure, we used to be given diuretics. You eliminate some of the plasma from your blood, you urinate more. Urine comes from your blood. More you urinate, the less blood you have more cells but less plasma. And you have to replenish it. So if you urinate a lot, it's like a hose. If it's full of water, it's hard, and you get some water out of it and it gets softer. Same happens with us. And then there are now different methods. You can also artificially relax vessels. So when they relax, the volume increases. The blood. When they are normally working, they're in a spasmodic mode and they are tight. You relax the muscles, everything dilates, becomes larger. So becomes larger storage of blood within a circulation, which automatically decreases pressure. Now, doctors tells you the most important thing is to maintain the lower pressure, the normal pressure. Well, let's examine what may cause the increase of blood pressure. We know that when we are aggravated, blood pressure is higher. Why? Brain is very active. Brain needs more fuel and more cooling. It needs to accelerate. The heart also needs more energy because every thought is energy being transmitted in form of electromagnetic wave. So for transmission, you need huge amount of energy. So every time you think, your heart has to beat a little faster, which is going to increase a little bit the pressure. But still, blood vessels should be flexible, and every time the heart beats, the sudden increase of blood will then expand a little bit the vessel, and as it expands, the inner pressure is minimized. It's not rising up as much as it would be if blood vessel would remain rigid. And when we are nervous or when we are under psychological pressure, we also produce steroids. Steroids are normally produced to make us more alert and to as a symptom of fight and flight. So when you are being in wild attacked by animal, so to protect yourself, you go under stress. Well, in this case, again, brain has to be very active, has to find solutions, and then muscles have to execute it. And all of this will need huge amount of blood. So heart starts pumping faster. So whenever you're under stress, your heart rhythm goes up, your blood pressure goes up, slightly, because you are flexible, but it will go up. Now, why does blood pressure go high more than slightly, and is there when we are not under stress? Well, what else can increase blood pressure? I spoke very often about inflammation. So inflammation is forced hydration. When cells do not want to hydrate because blood is toxic, but they need additional plasma, they will be forced to hydrate through override system, which we call inflammation. And I explain how it happens. The organ that is going to be inflamed or tissue is going to be inflamed, every tissue organ, they have arteries that bring the blood and they have veins that take the blood out. So if this tissue or organ needs to be forced to accept more plasma inside of their cells, and they don't want to hydrate, then the blood pressure and lymphatic pressure in this tissue has to be increased. So through increased pressure, some of the water is going to be pushed into the cells or plasma. So how does the body do it? It will secrete particular hormones. Okay? It is going to secrete vasopressin. Vasopressin, the word tells you, vasos, blood vessels, pressin, pressure. So they insert pressure on the blood vessels. Okay? It's very similar what happens in allergic reaction. And when the blood vessels near the organ tightens down, what happens that if you diminish the orifice of artery next to the organ, it is like squeezing end of the garden hose. What happens? The back pressure in a hose increases because you have certain amount, you open the faucet, so certain amount of water is coming, but you have decreased the size of the orifice, so it cannot go out. So it builds up the pressure, and under higher pressure, you have a squirting from a smaller hole, but it goes under higher pressure, goes in a longer distance. So basically, after the pressure was established, the back pressure was established, you have the same amount of blood going into the organ as it would be without this pressure. But it goes to smaller orifice with a stronger flow. And it fills the organ because you also have a squeezed vein. And when you have squeezed vein, you have the small orifice. So now the blood cannot flow out as normally it would because you have a smaller orifice. So again, the pressure of the organ has to actually equalize the pressure of the artery to be able to release the incoming blood in the same velocity. And this is what increases the pressure of the organ. This is what causes inflammation. This is what causes redness and pain, because the inflamed organ grows in size, makes a pressure of sensory nerves. So, we know one thing. As we get older, we start having chronic problems. And we have always been told that inflammation is a cause of all our chronic issues. Well, it's not true. This is, again, misconception. But what is true is that we do have inflammation in every chronic process. Why? Because chronic process is based on chronic toxicity and dehydration on a cellular level, which will then inevitably reach for this forced hydration process, and it will cause inflammation. So, as more toxic we become, especially on a cellular level, we are going to be putting our body into variety of inflammatory processes. And every inflammatory process will close the artery and create back pressure. And if you have several of these processes going, you have buildup of this back pressure. And you can feel it when you are measuring it on your pulse. This is why also you will not have the same inflammations happening on left side and on the right side of the body, because there are different organs sometimes in different side of the body. And also deterioration of muscles or joints on one side could be more pronounced than on the other side. One may require inflammation, one may not. So to make sure, if inflammation is cause of your high blood pressure, you measure your blood pressure on the left hand and on the right hand, and you will see that there is discrepancy. One hand will show higher blood pressure than the other one. And it is because there is less back pressure, less inflammation. So you can right away judge, okay, on this side, what organs I have here, where could be a problem? Where do I see? High blood pressure is actually symptom. And symptoms do not harm us. Symptoms are there to let us know that we got to change because something, what we are doing is wrong for the body. But not according to medicine. Because the science of medicine is not about healing. It is about camouflaging the problem and allowing it to develop, and even helping it to develop further. So from one problem you get another and another and another. From one disease you get another. Then we are being told, oh, that previous disease had nothing to do with this disease. Bollocks. It is all connected. Everything is connected. So, if you have a young organism, and again, you can test it on your children. You have a child, teenager, if the teenager is in good health, because today it's already becoming very difficult to find teenager in good health, especially in the United States. As soon as somebody is obese or has skin problems, they are in ill health. And their blood pressure may go up when you start hydrating them, because they already are in problem of inflammation. And but in general, younger people, especially if they are involved in sports, they drink plasma. No matter how much salt they put, blood pressure remains the same. Doesn't change. Because salt is not going to change blood pressure. But if you have a problem of inflammation, then it will. Because lightly inflamed body is not going to register the increased pressure when it's hydrated. But when it's inflamed a little bit more, let's say if you have a meningus problem of toxicity, when you suffer from headaches, and when you start drinking plasma, as your blood pressure slowly increases, you start having headache. Why? Because you already had inflamed meningus, but inflammation was not strong enough to create enough pressure on sensory nerve to cause pain. You may just feel a heavy head, but not pain. And then you start drinking plasma, you start increasing level of blood in your circulatory system. So you start filling the hose. And the hose reaches already organ that is slightly has squeezed the end. As you are filling it out, there is more flow. Well, it is going to start increasing also the pressure within inflamed area. And this slight increase of the pressure may be just what was needed to create headache. I know many people with high blood pressure. And high, I mean diastolic 105 and systolic 180, 175. Okay, that's high. They have no headache. They don't even know that they have blood pressure. One of them is helping my parents-in-law in Venezuela. She's singing every day, all the time. She doesn't want to change her diet. She does not even drink the plasma, although she sees what miracle it does on in Loretna's parents. So she sees the benefits, but she does not want to leave eating the stuff that she likes to eat. They live on corn, basically, and fruit, vegetables. And now she has also access to meat, so she gets meat, but she still likes to have her corn, most likely coffee as well. And when she measured her blood pressure, she was surprised. It was 105 over 175. She has no pain. She does not know that she has high blood pressure. When you are in a stressful situation and your blood pressure jumps, you don't know that you have high blood pressure. You are focusing on what you are doing. There is no pain involved. But if you already have inflamed areas and now there is a slight increase in blood pressure, this inflamed area may start showing pain. Again, this is to show you much better where the problem in your body is. The problem is not blood pressure. Problem is the inflamed area. And this is the reason why you have increased blood pressure. You fix the inflamed area, blood pressure drops. Another reason of increased blood pressure is cellular dehydration. Because when cells of blood vessels dehydrate, they lose the flexibility. And they cannot stretch. So when heart pumps, there is no stretching occurring. So every time heart pumps, pressure goes up. and then it stays there because it takes longer time for the blood to go through. So it stays there. So even in diastolic, it's still high. So it goes from 170 to 105. Doesn't go lower because it goes to that 105 and then another beat comes. And it keeps on a higher range instead of dropping below the radar, below 110, below 15, below 100, below 90, below 80. It should be 60, 70. On the other hand, my wife, Ilnoretna, she all her life has had a low blood pressure. And no matter how much plasma she drinks, her pressure is low. It's 50 over 90. To doctors, she should be dead. It's way too low. She has no problem at all. Mine was a little higher. Mine was around 65, 60 and 110. But this was already when I was cleansing, when I'm in the cleansing and stuff. Otherwise, mine is also lower. We should probably have lower blood pressure. Most likely, the way Ilno has it. But we are all sick. We are all eating incorrectly. So, of course, the parameters we cannot even count on what is the average, because the average is based on sick people, on glucoholic people. We should be ketogenic. So, parameters can go out the window, but in general, whenever you have increased blood pressure, number one, don't worry about it. Doctors say, oh, this can lead to stroke. Well, what brings heart stroke is lack of oxygenation. The blood vessel collapses. The coronary artery doesn't take blood through it. Well, wouldn't high blood pressure remedy this situation? Well, most likely. So by us lowering artificially blood pressure, we are more likely to experience stroke. Because high blood pressure should pull through. You're lowering it and you already have a problem with blood vessels, well, you are creating opportunity for disaster. This is why I say you can go to a doctor to diagnose you if you want diagnosis. But if you count doctor of healing you, you are mistaken. He is the guide to cemetery. Doctors are not equipped to heal. They don't even know what the word healing means. They use curing. Curing is preserving, which they cannot do either. It gets worse. So, do not fear elevated blood pressure. It is not causing any problem. Some say, oh, your heart will get larger, and larger heart becomes weaker. This is like telling a bodybuilder, don't exercise because big muscles are going to make you weaker. I mean, are you a freaking moron? But the doctors keep repeating this crap. Colleagues, wake up, please. Just wake up. Start using the Google. Don't repeat what you have been told, because we have been told lies. Everything is contrary to everything we have been told. And it still continues. Nothing has changed. It will change soon. But so far, nothing has changed. Because people simply do not want to believe anything that is contrary to their programming. This is the problem. I have colleagues who are doctors. I have family who are doctors. I have friends who are doctors. They all think I'm lunatic. Well, they are waking up slowly, but very slowly. So we have to understand the origin and what high blood pressure actually means, what it represents. It represents symptom. It is a symptom of problems in the body, most likely inflammatory problems, but also dehydration problems. And every time you use medication to lower blood pressure, you are not addressing the problem why the pressure is higher. And there is a purpose for the high blood pressure, so the rest of the body can function correctly in that state, in that sickly state. Now you drop the blood pressure, you are creating opportunity for disasters. You are working against the body. I don't know how else to present it. This is, I think, the simplest way that this can be shown, how this works. And I have mentioned in my other videos when I address the issue of hypertension, the example of my grandfather, step-grandfather. Since I knew him, well, I knew him as a little kid, but since the time we immigrated from Czechoslovakia to Yugoslavia, I was 7 years old. My grandfather at that time was probably 60 or something around that. And his blood pressure was to the roof. His doctor was a neighbor, lived as a tenant because the building belonged to my grandfather. So he was on phone call, he would pop in. And what was he doing? He was treating my grandfather against pain and giving him painkillers. And then controlling high blood pressure through diuretics. But his blood pressure was always about 110 over 190, 200, 220. Sometimes the doctor could not even measure it. It was above the scale. Could not reach the top to stop the circulation. So we don't even know how high it was. And my grandfather, on the diuretic and on the medication, his blood pressure was controlled somewhere around 110 and 180. And somewhere it was fluctuating, always there, but going to 200 and 220 and over quite often. And he lived almost 100 years. And when he died not because of high blood pressure, but because of osteoporosis. He simply, when he stood up from a couch to go to bathroom, his bones would break. He could not move anymore. And blood pressure didn't kill him. And he had enlarged heart. So what? Every sportman, everybody who does demanding sports, even marathon runners, they have enlarged hearts because there is more blood necessary to flow through. Heart is pumping faster every day, and muscle increases. And then when I have big heart. My heart. Well, when I went as for military, so you have to have the examination, And the doctor was like, whoa, you have arrhythmia. Give me 10 push-ups. Why? Because he knew I was built like a brick shit house. And he knew I must be in sports. And my heart works differently. So when I was in relaxed situation, since my heart was larger and stronger, it would pump so much blood in one shot that the next heartbeat could be skipped, because I provided too many stuff to my organs, which creates irregular heartbeat. And then I had to do some push-ups to make the demand a little stronger, and then my heartbeat corrects itself, because now it has to beat rhythmically, because it has to deliver nutrients and cool the muscles that have been used, and works okay. But even with irregular heart, my blood pressure was low, normal. Doctor sees irregular heartbeat. Oh, problem, we gotta medicate. You have a problem between syncops of the nerves in the heart. Bull. Body is perfect machine, and it works on demand, cellular demand. Cells need more of something, they send a signal, heart works certain way. They need less of something, they send a signal, heart slows down. So, if we have increased blood pressure, the body needs it. This is how the body was designed. But then we have to ask ourselves, why? And I now have explained, it's usually problem with inflammation. And in older people, the problem is going to be also deterioration of the blood vessels, not because of age, but because of increased dehydration and increased toxicity. The cells contain less plasma, they cannot cleanse, they become more acidic. The electroconductivity, capacity of storing energy is gone, because overly acidic cell cannot hold energy, which means the muscle tension goes down. Nothing works correctly. You have to rehydrate the cell to be able to cleanse them so they can work correctly, hold the electric charge. And this is why self-healers protocol is the best thing to do, no matter what health issue you have. And yes, it is not easy. More toxic you are, the more difficult it is, because you are going to have all these problems. You are going to have increased blood pressure. And then you are afraid, I need to lower this. Don't be afraid, it's okay. Increased blood pressure never killed anybody. And we are all afraid of it because doctor made us afraid. And doctors are afraid because they have been made afraid, because they don't use the Google. They're just parrots. Every doctor that will tell you that you are in danger, your blood pressure is high, they have to lower it, that doctor is a schmuck. And yes, we have plenty schmucks around. Unfortunately, my friends, I have to be honest. I've been schmuck until I start checking into it. And I don't know, most likely this is why I am here, because this was what I was supposed to bring to the light. But I'm also learning. And we always think, we finished schools, we stop all that, we know everything, we don't have to learn anymore. We know nothing. Everything we were told is bollocks. It's not worth paper was written on. We learn only through experience, and we should continue experiencing. So don't take anything what I say for granted. But if it makes sense, try it. And then when you get symptoms, don't try to explain those symptoms using science, because all the explanations are purposely faulty. So you are being made afraid of things which are actually your healing process. And even the science of medicine is calling the symptoms of healing, is calling them disease. And those are cleansing symptoms, symptoms of healing. And now we call them disease to suppress them. Use plant toxins to suppress the healing symptoms. Well, my friends, I hope that I managed to open your eyes a little bit to what hypertension is all about. Do not fear it. But yes, it is good to monitor it if you are using the self-healers protocol for your own mind, because ego is very, very difficult to change opinion. Okay, so whatever it was learned first became its truth, and it will always measure whatever comes next to the truth it holds sacred, not knowing that the truth it knows is actually false. So it's very difficult for us to accept something new. This is why I do experiments. When I was told I should drink seawater if I want to regenerate my blood vessels, my circulation, I was puzzled. I was afraid. But since this came from divine space, I had to do it. I had to try it on myself before I start talking about it. So everything what I'm talking about comes from my personal experience, and then through experience of those who followed my discoveries, or they're not even discoveries. That's all remembering. All this knowledge already exists. We are just remembering, breaking the veil of lies and going to the position of truth. And now, with the sun activity, with all this ionic plasma bombardment that comes from the sun, we are receiving activation codes. They are helping us to activate the dormant DNA. They are allowing us to become more conscious and realizing the truth. We are in awakening process, which will culminate most likely in the summer solstice, June 20th, through solar flash. Now, timing, I have been always wrong on timing, but now I hear it from channelers and Pleiadians and Andromedians saying the same thing. So, get ready for a big bang. It's going to hit everybody. And I will make videos especially on this when we become a little bit more acceptant to this idea. Still, great majority of people have no idea what is happening now, energetically wise, with the sun and planet and ourselves. And everybody who feels very tired in the morning, or was feeling good on protocol and all of a sudden they feel very bad, well, this is because of the activation codes. The activation codes are coming, integrating with our DNA, activating it. All this is energy consuming, and most of it happens during the night. So we wake up in the morning like truck ran over us. I can barely get up from the bed in the morning. So it's going to get worse because the waves are stronger and stronger until finally the culmination. But again, we are talking 3-week difference. So, get ready, but don't be in a fear. It's a glorious time. This is why we are here, to hold the light for the process. Okay, so going back to blood pressure, hypertension, don't fear it. Use it as a symptom that something in the body has to be adjusted. And again, most likely, we are talking about inflammation processes that have to be not suppressed, but the cause why the inflammation is there has to be dealt with. So inflammation stops. And again, usually it is toxicity on the cellular level that does it. Okay, my friends, if in doubt, always go to Cellular's protocol, follow it. But if you have symptoms or if you are medicated, you should be guided because symptoms will be strong. And even guided, there is going to be, for some people, it is going to be a rough road to take because healing is not so painless. That's why it's called healing pains, although very few have experienced them unless you were on Cellular's protocol. But keep in mind, if Pleiadians are telling us the truth, but everything else points to it, that we are going to be illuminated with the solar flash soon, and our reality is going to shift suddenly for all of us. Okay, my friends, thank you for listening. Love you very much. God bless us all. Namaste.